Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live Noding. In this episode, I want to try to explore one particular node in Sverchok, and this is the first time I actually try to use it, and it's called the execute node mode. So this node actually can kind of run a certain Python codes as a node. And in this case, I'm really using it to to streamline the whole process of assigning modifier into a bunch of objects. And you can see I have like 8 objects. They're all being procedurally generated here using nodes. And then I'm also like giving it some randomizations in the scale. And on top of that, whenever I generate these objects, they are assigned this subdivision modifier and also wireframe modifier. That's because this guy did the job. You see, this one is running this Python code and then passing the objects output into this guy. So this is how it's kind of like the order this modifier being applied using Subsurf modifier, and then the next one is of course wireframe modifier. And I found this to be really interesting, and I want to share this technique with you. So let's get started from just like a blank, the default Blender scene. Okay, I'm gonna delete everything and I'm gonna save this real quick. So normally, if you have like perhaps you start with a cube and you have like a bunch of objects, and then you want, let's say you want to assign the same modifier, like in this case, just like simple stuff, like just subdivisions, and then you apply wireframe. And you know that modifiers in Blender, the order of modifier is also important. You can always switch the order if you like. Maybe that's something we're gonna explore further in the future. But for now, if you want to apply this modifier on these objects into other objects, there are many ways to do this. The first way is like if you select all these and then select this one, the last one, like this active one. We have 5 objects being selected, and this is the active objects with the modifier being assigned into. We can Control L and then make links to the modifiers, and then every object will get that same modifier. So that's one way. That's the manual way to do it. The second way is to actually use Python code. So I'll try to do it now. So let's have like a bunch of objects, and let's try to use scripting. For if you never use scripting, it might be a little bit intimidating, but you don't need to feel intimidated. There are actually multiple ways to do this. You can use the operators. For example, you can use subdiv operators, and it will give you this. And then if you run the wireframe, it will give you this commands, bpy.ops object modifier, and so on. This is like if you run these 2 commands while selecting an object that's active, you're gonna turn that objects. You're gonna assign modifier into that object. So if I just copy this and then paste it here, and I have this object selected, if I run the script, it's supposedly assigning it. It says no, it's failing. Oh, BPY. Oh, I need to use the BPY. Okay. This is the second way to do the same thing. This is using operators. Have the objects active, run the script, and it will does the job for that. So if I have 2 objects being selected, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and I run the script, only the one that's active assign this, unless you are doing like makes the selected active and then do the commands over and over again. So there's another way. A better way is actually to use BPY or Blender BPy, and you assign it by, let's see, you assign it like this. Let's say we have these objects cube.001, and we can get to that data block by using bpy.dataObjects and then get the name 001. So that's actually the object I'm selecting. I just assign it into a variable like this. So now OB, this is a variable into these objects, and then I can assign the modifier this way. Just simply modifiers new. Okay, it says object modifiers new. Give it a name. The name, normally it's better, it's just doing it like this. Give it a name like my Subsurf, and type of Subsurf. If I enter this and then update the scene, this object now has Subsurf modifier apply, and all done using script. So that's pretty cool. In fact, I can do this like into multiple objects at the same time very quickly. So let's try, this is the second way to do this. So import bpy. First of all, we want to select all these objects, and for now we're just gonna use a bpy context selected objects, and that's actually giving you a return of these objects being selected. So that's we can use that. So selected equal bpy.context.selected objects, and we can say like for every object in selected, just do like object modifiers new with type Subsurf, give it a name equal, just keep it simple, just name it Subsurf lowercase, and I think that's pretty much it. But we can add more like a safety Python code, but for now I think this will work. Just run the script and then update, we get all this Subsurf working for us. There's a better way. Actually, if we are doing it like this, if we run the script multiple times, it will continue assigning the modifier. We can add some kind of safety, like we can say if not Subsurf in object modifiers, and then run the command. So if we are adding this and select all our objects and run this multiple times, it will not add the modifier because we already have modifier with name Subsurf. So this is like some kind of safety command. I'll save this first. So that's cool. That's like how you can assign modifier using Python, and that's actually very fast. And this is already pretty cool. If you understand this, I want to be able to do this using nodes. So let's try and investigate how we can do this using nodes. So now we jump to compositing, open up Sverchok, new. Let's keep our Python code. Okay, this guy right here. We're gonna transfer this into nodes. Okay, so we're gonna delete everything. Start again with the default cube. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're gonna set up something here, something quite magical. This EXEC node mode, very powerful nodes. And if you know Python, really, you can pass some objects into this guy and then output a result. So it's gonna be really cool. So let's try. Just copy paste this guy for objects in the selected, and then just copy this guy, paste it here. Actually, copy. We have to make sure we have spacing because it's Python. We need to ensure there's this proper indentation. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. We're gonna test this real quick. Let's see if it's working. So the idea here is to pass in a bunch of objects, and we're gonna use this node to generate the modifier for us. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and simply use objects in, get selection. So we have our 4 objects already inside Sverchok. We just pipe in this object into this guy, and it's gonna give error because our objects is coming into this guy, and then we need to, instead of select it, this one should be V1. Enter, and you can see it's already working. So it's actually working perfectly for us. We have our objects assigned modifier, and each modifier is named Subsurf. Okay, and then we also we can actually use all sort of objects, like let's use what's the obvious one, like icosphere perhaps, and I'm gonna grab all these 5 and then updates the selections and then update. You see this guy also get a Subsurf. That's really cool. Let's say you want to continue further with this guy, and then you're expecting something in the output. The output is actually a blank list, but if you want to pass these objects outside, you can add another line and then just say here, let's say, how did I do this? You can simply append the object. So you just simply pass these 5 objects into this guy, and then run all these commands and assigning modifiers, and then after you do that, you put in the objects as an output. Whenever you use append, the output's gonna be whatever you put there. So this is gonna be the objects. Okay, it's passing the objects, and if you want to add more modifier, let's say in this case, the next one you want to add a wireframe. You just type in wireframe here. This is like all this modifier type that you can assign. You can simply pass these objects there, and then get the output. So let's say just update it, and let's see if this is working. Oh, this should be a wireframe. There you go. It's updated, and then now you can see our objects have this Subsurf and then wireframe, and it comes in order whatever nodes you are chaining. So that's cool, and you can even further do things like let's say you want to change the thickness of this wireframe. You can do that as well. Just use a set object set, and then pipe in this object, and then just right click here, copy data path, paste it here, and we're gonna modify the thickness of this wireframe, and simply plug it in, and then now you can control the wireframe. So yeah, I found this to be pretty interesting and really cool, because you can also randomize things like, you know, we have like 5 objects, and if you want to give like random number, we can just pipe it in like that. So we have different wire thickness for each object. So that seems to be working as well. So it's amazingly making everything very, very streamlined. And whenever you can save this node setup, and whenever you need some kind of like a chaining of modifier creations, you can use this setup very, very easy. And you can say, okay, now you want to switch to monkey head, for example. So 1, 2, 3 monkey head. Just get them into Sverchok. It will run all these commands, execute everything, and then you can randomize the wireframe as well. Everything in one go. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I want to show you. Except that instead of instead of having objects in the 3D scene, you can also kind of generate the objects on the fly. So I just cut that, and then I'll create, for example, box. And this is a single box, and we can use bmesh here. So I'm generating this box, right? And it's in the it's already an objects now. I can just pipe it into that guy. Now we have this being generated on the fly. So we have this box. We can subdivide, and all these modifiers and being processed like in one go. Okay. So what even cooler is that I can say use this matrix in and make a bunch of them, like use like a grid, perhaps plain, pipe it in there. Now we have a bunch of objects like that, and each one already assigned the modifier. And you can even randomize the vector. For example, we have 16 box. I pipe it into the scale, and then I can kind of make some kind of randomness. I can even like have different resolution. I'm not going to do that, but you can see we are controlling everything in one go. So something like that. So I think that's really, really cool. And you can even like pipe this further, and then if you want to change the subsurf, for example, right click, copy data path, paste it here, and then use integer value, pipe in there, and then let's see if this is working. So you can control the subdivision like that. And if you want to do this one more time, you can do it here. If not, Subsurf X and Subsurf X. So this is like another subdivisions. We pipe it in there. So we got this extra subdivision at the end for all 16 objects. And if you want to go even crazier, you can go use a higher number, and let's see if we can also use this and random vector. So how many objects we have now? Lots of objects. So get the length of objects, type it in. 24, just simply plug this into the count. So we have 24 objects, all already comes with the modifier and ready for us to be rendered. So yeah, that's the technique here. It's pretty advanced. So in order to do this, you probably need to understand a little bit of Python, but you can basically add snippet of Python codes into this execute node mode, and whenever the frame is being updated, it's gonna run through all this, assigning all this modifier, and then changing all the parameters, everything like being chained as a node. So normally with Blender, of course, by default, if you want to add modifier or you want to add there are some also like modifier, like close is also modifier, and smoke is also modifier. All these, they're something that you can actually chain using nodes in Sverchok. So very, very powerful setup. And if you can understand this, maybe this is going to be something that can help you to streamline whatever you are doing. If you are doing the same things on multiple objects and you want to chain modifier, you can do it this way. And Blender comes with some like a bunch of rich modifiers that you can kind of combine, and then I think this setup is very, very interesting. And I still don't know what's the limitation, but I think there are so many things that we can do that's never been done before, and I think this is a really good way if you want to explore kind of scripting. So of course, all of this can be done simply by scripting, but doing it this way kind of give you some kind of visual idea of how you can kind of script everything. So of course you can still control the wire, and then you can change the modifier, and you can turn it on and off, modifier, subsurf, whatever. So yeah, I found this to be interesting, and hopefully you find these techniques useful. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Maybe there's something I could add. Thanks to Sverchok developer to really give us this powerful node, and thanks also I consult them every now and then, and sometimes I do also find lots of interesting Python codes that we can use, like let's see, how to remove modifier. Okay, this is also very important. If you want to remove all this modifier, once you've done all this and then you decided, okay, I actually want to get rid of all this modifier, how do I do that? Let's say, for example, turn off Sverchok processing. So I'm turning it off, so it's no longer doing anything. And if you want to get rid all this modifier, you can do it using Python. That's the easiest way to do it. So remove modifier, you can do something like this. Select all these objects, and then for each selected, just remove modifier with certain name, for example. So we can do it this way. Select all of them, run the script. So I'm removing modifier. Actually, I'm removing all of them at the same time somehow. Yeah, I think this script is very useful. Thanks to Zefi from Blender Stack Exchange. There's so many useful gems there. This is the answer from Zefi. Zefi is also a Sverchok modifier. I think his contributions to Blender scripting is very like is quite a lot. I really thankful to have him, and also he contributes a lot for Sverchok development. So yeah, kudos for him. I really thank him. So anyway, that's the whole process right there. And like I said, we can do it this way, or we can simply use like objects in. Let's if I cut this and I just select bunch of objects, get selection, pipe in into these objects, and then turn on Sverchok processing and then update the frame, you can see the modifier is working, and then giving all this modifier, assigning all this modifier as a one chain of reaction. Yeah, pretty cool, I think. Yeah, thanks again for tuning in. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.